American politics today is more divisive and polarized than ever. We've forgotten how to talk to each other. We've forgotten how to disagree. We're barreling towards permanent division, and we cannot afford to reach that point.
My name is Robert Yang, and
my name is Kenichi Lobbezzoo.
Now, despite having differing political opinions, we have been best friends for 6 years. We're here today because we've heard too many heartbreaking stories about families and friends being ripped apart because of their opposing political views, and we've had enough.
We're here to address the issue of division in our politics. Robert and I know that even if we weren't friends, we could still get along because we choose to agree that basic civility and tolerance is necessary to have a meaningful dialogue. If two individuals can do it, why can't two parties?
Division, polarization, and segregation between red and blue is something to be overcome, and we can overcome it. Division should not become the foundation of our politics, because whether it's the left wing or the right wing, an eagle needs both wings to fly. Understanding our political climate is important.
The reasons for political polarization today can be broken down into 3 categories: influences, lack of bilateral communication, and the missing common goal.
First, our influences come from news, friends, family, social media, and politicians. Most of us don't bother fact-checking them and take them at face value. We often believe whatever the news, friends, family, social media is feeding us. The way we get our news and how the media delivers information fuels the increasing polarization between sides.
Secondly, bilateral communication is a conversation where we hash out our differences, share different opinions, and have an exchange of ideas. In order to bridge a divide as gaping as the one that we see today, we need to have open bilateral communication to have a true exchange of ideas.
And thirdly, a common goal gives both parties purpose and a destination for discussion. Without a common goal, we simply cannot agree on how to move forward.
To reduce division in American politics today, we have to fact-check our influences, have open bilateral communication, and reach toward a common goal.
Now that we've identified these 3 things at the core of our polarization, let's talk about why they're so hard to change. Allowing ourselves to be influenced by bias undermines the ability for Americans to understand other points of view and increases intolerance. Now, there's a lot of bias out there. From the news to social media, you may be influenced by biased facts.
Be aware of the dynamics of the news cycle and what is fact and what is fiction and what is opinion. Recognize the personal biases of news anchors and authors. Many mainstream media outlets like CNN, Fox News, and MSNBC often show bias and sometimes only show one side of a political picture. They produce the same regurgitated political arguments over and over and over again.
And for those who only tune into one news station or read one newspaper, where we get our news can significantly influence the way we think about public policy.
The state of polarization in America today can be pinpointed to the influences from which we get our views. The fact of the matter is that we need to change the way Americans receive their news.
Getting unreliable information and one-sided opinions isn't good for anyone. Social media is a huge factor in propelling harmful stereotypes about the other side because it's so quick to disseminate.
This is a big part of what creates a divide. It is the fact that we are not exposed to enough new ideas, and even when we are, we reject them immediately because of what we've heard and what we've seen, whether it be on the news, social media, or elsewhere. This is the result.
Intolerance. Intolerance and ignorance are what breeds division, what breeds polarization, what breeds segregation. However, we are capable of bridging this divide. A conversation needs to happen and more discussions need to occur. Communication is key in bringing us back together. Now, this communication has 3 goals. For both parties to look for common ground, the exchange of ideas, and a way to reach a common goal.
Keeping in mind those 3 objectives, we have to reach toward a certain standard in our political conversations. Whether it's informal or formal, our dialogues must be civil and tolerant.
Treat the person you're communicating with as a fellow American, someone to be persuaded respectfully. And since you're both on Team USA and you're having a civil discussion, maybe save the personal attacks for your diary.
Personal attacks prevent the conversation from moving forward or even happening at all.
For example, if Kenichi and I were to have a conversation and he were to say, Club Wolverine is better than Celine swim team. And I simply responded with, you are an actual idiot. I hate you, and you are going to wish you were never born. Now, that is a perfect example of the incivility we have in our national political discussion. As soon as you attack anyone you're debating with personally, you remove the ability for civility and no conversation can happen.
Instead, lay out your opinions and support them with facts. Not half-truths, not lies, not what you think the truth may be. Facts. We may be passionate, and we should be, but we must be passionate about the facts.
Know that you don't have to hate someone that is not you or doesn't share your exact opinions, and that oftentimes a mixture of good ideas resulting from a productive dialogue is the best idea. However, civil discourse and independent thinking aren't the only things that will bridge this divide. There's one more part, and it's you.
Our very way of government demands civic participation. It's critical that each and every one of us are involved.
Each and every one of us can be involved by voting, marching, donating, volunteering, and simply staying informed. Now, our voting participation rates are generally one of the lowest among major democracies.
It is easy to feel that your one individual vote won't count and that your voice in the grand scheme of American politics will not be heard. It's even easier to feel that way when some official is purging voter lists or some state is passing a law making it harder to vote, or when special interests wield an undue influence on the outcome of our elections. And what ends up happening each election is millions and millions of people just do not vote.
But that is wrong, and your vote does matter. For all the imperfections there are in the system, and there are many of those, the bedrock, the core, the foundation of the system works. We're fortunate enough in this country to have a system of one person, one vote. And even though you may not feel as if one vote will make a difference, you have to. You absolutely have to vote.
Because when millions and millions of people come together and each cast their one vote, every single one of those votes adds on to the last, and that's why your vote counts.
Decisions are made by those who show up. And when people come together, they have the power to change the face of government. From your local city council, to the state legislature, to the Congress, and all the way to the presidency. That's why it is critical that you vote.
Volunteering, donating, and participating in activism are crucial as well. And that is because our system of government is one where for things to truly change, the people have to apply pressure to our public servants. Real change never comes from the top on down. It must come from the bottom on up.
Whether it was the Vietnam War protests and the civil rights movement during the last century, or the March for Our Lives and the LGBTQ movement today, the government only acts when we, the people, demand it to. And at the forefront of every single one of those movements were young people. It's always been the upcoming generation that have led the charge into the future, and each and every one of us can be involved in that too.
Marching to create change, donating to your candidate, or even participating in their campaign, or just talking to other people about what you believe needs to happen. Whatever it is, find a cause that you believe in and work for it.
And finally, and perhaps most importantly, stay informed. Because whether it's voting, marching, donating, volunteering, or spreading your message, none of that is possible without staying informed. You have to be aware of the facts to be able to form full opinions.
The most important thing when it comes to staying informed is this. Whether it's your delusional friend, the media, or your elected official, demand the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Because we have been divided before. We have had our differences before. But in those times, we've always come back together as one people, and we shall do so again. Because out of many, we are one. That has always been our story. That is our story, and it will always continue to be our story. Because there is so much more that unites us than divides us. We are one nation, indivisible, always stronger united than we are alone. We are and always will be the United States of America.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.